So without any further ado, I'll bring up Tony Costanzo.
All right. Yep. So before guys know me, this is my 38th year here at the AstroAssembly. So, how many people here are visual observers? Show of hands. Okay, and I'm a visual observer myself, and that's what it says here. Oops. So how I got into this, I'm going to talk about the Unistellar, and I'm going to talk about the Seestar. So in 2021, I got a call from France, from Unistellar. They asked me to do the repairs. So I contracted out to do the repairs. And I did about 100 units for them for the year. And we had several problems, and I wrote down the problems here. I have the lens cells out in my car, but they were using an aluminum lens cell, and they're putting the mirror inside, and then they were taking a plastic screw and cap to seat the, to keep the mirrors, in the cell, and it was too tight, so it was squashing the cell, and we were getting astigmatism. So we had to back that off, and they sent me their directions on how to do this. And then you put you put the mirror back in, and then you shoot the holder in, and they said, you got to make it tight. It's like, no, you don't make it tight. I've been making telescopes since 1987. These guys have been making them for like 5 years. You have to have some airspace. So then they started to send me some newer, holders so that they weren't as tight. So that was some of the problems. So we also had bad motors. So I had to take the motors out, and had bad memory cards, supposed to say cards, and they had bad batteries. Now I have all this stuff in my trunk. I was supposed to pass it around for you guys to look at. But once I get everything going, I used to have to take some photos and send them over to France, and it was kind of amazing. I'm a visual observer, never got into photographs, but when I saw these images after like a half a minute just blow up on the screen in full color, it was like amazing for me to see that. And so the scope allowed me to take color images of deep sky objects once I learned how to use the software, which was not intuitive at all. So one of the problems with the early software, it was kind of kludgy, and they didn't give you good directions. But what I could see once I kind of get it going is like I saw M42 in full color, the Ring Nebula in full color. And I'm a visual observer. I've never seen blue in the ring until I used the Unistellar. And then globular clusters were resolved. And, some of the interesting stuff was there was no alignment needed in the scope plate saw. Now I got these two asterisks there for a reason. And the reason is that when I started getting the new model, they were having the Unistellar 2, they were having some problems. I have a pointer. Okay. Once I got the new model, there were a lot of software problems. First of all, we had to update memory cards, and the memory that they use little scan disks. And the Unistellar 1 had 16 megabytes, and the Unistellar 2 had 64 megabytes. So they sent me the new cards, but they wouldn't tell me how to program them. Right? So they wouldn't tell. So you stick them in, you turn it on, you get nothing. So, and I called up, France, and I said, can you tell? Oh, it's a big long thing. So I said, forget it, I'll figure it out. So what I ended up doing is I took my Unistellar that was working, because they gave me one, and I stuck the new cards in my Unistellar, booted it up, and it put the information on the little deck, and I put it in. She says, how did you do that? I says, I'm not telling you. Because they wouldn't tell me, right? So classified. Yeah, good. So classified information. But what I found out about the Unistellar 2, that it was very sensitive to collimation and focus issues. So you would go to some place like M13, you just tell them to go to M13 and it goes. And, but it wouldn't, there's a button that enhances, and if you hit the enhance button and it wasn't collimated properly or wasn't focused properly, it wouldn't enhance, it would just shut down. So, so you have to go in and collimate. And the other thing is these are very sensitive to vibration. So, see where we're at here now. This is when it got working, this is kind of like what I was getting. And this is the dumbbell nebula. And I took this last weekend up in Maine. That's like a Bortle 1 sky. And that only took me 2 minutes. So it does it really fast once you get it working. And then the other thing you can do with these is take planetary pictures. So that's like a real quick picture of Jupiter. You know, it does pretty good. And then here is M33. So that was about, I say about 7 minutes on that. So not too bad. Now, here's where your problems arise, problem areas. The mirror cell is kinematic. Is anybody familiar with a kinematic lens cell? No? It doesn't have 3 points. So what they do, there's 4 points. 2 have springs, and then there's 2 stationary posts. All right? So what happens is you go to a star, and then you put it out of focus, and then you see where the crosshairs are. So if you have a round circle and the crosshairs are high, what you have to do is, and this software can do this, there's a toggle button. You have to bring the star up and then take the screwdriver and hit, there's only 2 screws. So you hit the down screw so you bring it back to the center. And you keep doing that until you get a centered crosshair, left and right. But it's not intuitive at all. And if you don't have the telescope at an angle like this or like this at the most, you can't get the screwdriver in the back. So it's a little problematical. So finding a star at the angle that you can reach the collimation screws limits you to 45, supposed to say degrees or lower. The mirror mount has 2 springs. These springs are, so that was the other thing. Instead of buying, I don't understand where manufacturers do this. Instead of buying 1 good spring, they take 2 cheap springs and they stick them together and they put them in the hole. So when you go to collimate, if the spring, you can get a collimator, if the spring grabs, it goes out of collimation. So as soon as you move it. So upgrading to a single spring, what I did is a couple of weeks ago, I just took the second spring out and used the single spring, and it stays in collimation better. But you could also order precision springs from McMaster Car. So you can get like stainless steel precision springs for like a set of 3 for $10, and you can stick them in there. So those guys that like to do a little work on their telescopes, this, you know, you can have some fun. The other issues, the inside of the OTA, I was looking down the OTA and checking the mirror, and it is so shiny and reflective. It, you know, like I could see my hand passing in front, you know, of the reflection. So, so what I did was you can flock it, but if you move, if you remove the mirror cell, which is 4 screws, and then you pop off the front end and unplug the camera and take it out, which is held by 2 screws, you can spray it. And I used camouflage non-reflective paint from Rust-Oleum. It was like $8. And this next frame is, I'm going to show you, is M27, and you'll notice a difference. Now, I took this picture in New Hampshire on the Bortle 4 skies. And you see how the background is a little darker, and I'm getting a little bit more detail than I was getting in Bortle 1 skies, just by painting the inside. So that was helpful.
Tony, did all your improvements get put into the equipment? I mean, did you
No,
communicate back to them?
no, this is my personal scope. I left Unistellar about 2 years ago because they were driving me nuts with the stuff that they were sending me. So I said, you know, you guys are not paying me enough for this kind of stuff. So I just decided to back off, and then I ended up working for B&H. So anyway, here's my summary thoughts. The Unistellar is more expensive. They're around $4,900, but they do gather more light than a Seestar, which I also own. You can do planets, but it needs some mechanical upgrades. Now, the other positive thing is, when you're connected to the Unistellar, you can have 10 other people connected to it. Can't do that with the Seestar. You get one person, one extra person. That's it. But with this, you can have 10 people, and what's nice is they can keep the picture. They can, you know, if they download the Unistellar application, they can connect to this telescope, keep the picture. So it's a kind of a nice take-home memory, you know. They have newer models now, and these they dropped the diameter down to 85 millimeter from 114, and the prices are $1,400 to $2,900, and then but they have no eyepieces. Now the one I have, the Unistellar one, has an eyepiece. So the eyepiece is just another camera, but you would be amazed how many people, like you look at M51 and they look into the eyepiece and they go, ooh, ah, like they're looking at really in an eyepiece. It's not, it's just a camera image, but you can still see it in an eyepiece. So it kind of grabs people, especially people that, you know, don't see this kind of stuff in an eyepiece. So that's some of the positives. So now I'm going to talk about the Seestar, which is spelled wrong, 50. Now the cost of the Seestar is $500. I got mine from Jeff, who's going to have his shop here tomorrow, and I called his shop up and they sent it to me. I was in Florida. They sent it to me like for $14, and I got this thing in like 2 days. It's got a triplet lens. It's 50 millimeters. It has autofocus. You don't have to collimate it. It has a built-in heater, has a built-in nebula filter. It's lightweight, comes in a small box like this. It has a solar filter included. The only negative thing about it is the tripod is really small. So it has a little level on it. If you don't set it down and level the tripod first, and then you put the scope on, the software will drive you crazy trying to level it. So that's my suggestion, is to level the tripod first. Like the Unistellar, why did I purchase this? Like the Unistellar, I can get photos and movies of objects in color that I can't see through a visual scope. And you see colors in nebulas, you see the spiral arms and galaxies. With the Seestar, you can see sunspots. I did a movie of the eclipse. I was with Mike and Steve. We did a movie up near Canada of the eclipse. The moon views are spectacular, and the scope does talk to you. So when you press the button, the little voice comes on. I wish you could change the voice, would be good. A little voice comes on and it says powering up, and then when it's all ready to go, it will say, we're up and running, you can connect now. So, you know, you kind of know. With the Unistellar, they have so many software problems. Sometimes you go to connect and it doesn't connect, and you have to reboot the Unistellar, and then you have to reboot your phone. So it's a little easier to use. Here's some photographs that I took. It's a little blurry, I apologize. I don't know why that came out blurry. That's not what I'm seeing here. It's nice and cool. Is there a way that you can clean that up?
It's clear, it's just the projector.
Oh, well, you can't see it in this, but in mine, this is all pinpoint stars right down to the core, and all of these around. For some reason, the projector's making it. Here's the M33, and this was 9 minutes as compared to the Unistellar, which was about 3 to 4 minutes. But you get better stars. and you get better nebulosity in the photos. Okay, so let's see. Let's see where I'm at now. Sorry about this. Okay, so summary. The Unistellar has a joystick controller in the software. So you need that if you're collimating, because you blow up a star and then you have to move it up to the top and then use the screwdriver to bring it back down again to get it collimated. So you need the joystick. But you can also use the joystick in slow motion to recenter your object, which is good. It's better for outreach. 10 people at a time can view and keep photos. The EVUs you can get right now for about $500 to $800, and it can be modified to be as good as the EV2. Now, Peter Bilo did a review of the EV2 in Sky and Telescope, and I was with him. And we looked at the photographs, and my EV is very, very close to the 2, especially now that it's darkened. So, you know, you can get a used one for around $500, same as the Star. If you want to do planets, it would be a better way to go. The exposure time is less than the Seestar. It has better outreach than the Seestar. You can see planets, and they give you a full-size tripod. So it's kind of nice. How many people here have seen a Unistellar live? Nobody? Well, they're about this big. They're a little Newtonian. They're about this big. They only weigh about 6-7 pounds, and they give you full-size tripods. You can put it up here, and then you can actually look in the eyepiece. Unistellar bad points here is that the collimation is difficult. To focus it, you really need that Batnoff mask that they give you. Is underneath the cover. They give you a Batnoff mask. There's no back button on the software. So if you're going along with the software, you can't get back. There's no back button. The company updates frequency, so you have to relearn it before you can use it. So I was doing a repair. I had like 10 units in, and I got the first one set up, and I turned the system on, and I go, and it updated the software without even telling me. And I couldn't figure out how to do my job because I couldn't figure out how to use the program. So, and then I had to relearn it, and that took about an hour. So I lost about an hour's worth of time. I wish they just wouldn't do that kind of stuff. The software is difficult. You must upload the files. Oh yeah. So initially, in order to clear your memory, you had to put in your Wi-Fi name and password so Unistellar could connect to it, to connect to the Unistellar, to upload all the software and all the pictures you had taken to Unistellar. Like they own the pictures, even though you paid $1,500 for the telescope. And I felt that felt like an invasion of my privacy. And also had battery problems. The batteries would fail a lot of times, and people try to fix these things by plugging it in, several times to try to get it going. I found the easiest way. I'll be done in about 5 minutes. The easiest way to get through this is to I took a good battery and a bad battery, and I put 2 different circuits and I plugged it in. And while it was charging the good one, it recharged the bad one. So that was kind of good. Software issues are constant. You have intermittent problems with the connections and executing the scope. So the Seestar pluses are it's cost effective. It does deep sky better. And a sky map software in the Seestar. Now, how many people here have Seestars? Quite a few. So you guys know this as the built-in dew heater, solar filter, nebula filter. There's no collimation needed, and the stars are tighter and rounder. So the Seestar negatives is it could use more aperture, and they could put a joystick to center objects, and they could give you taller tripod because the small one is leveling is difficult. And then sometimes when they update their software, it's worse than the previous version. So that was kind of weird. Conclusion, the Seestar is sorry about the spelling. It's less effort to set up and use and less money and does a better job on deep sky object, but it won't do planets. So the conclusion for the Seestar, I feel for personal use, it's the most cost effective, but it still suffers from smaller, it suffers, if you try to do an object like the Ring Nebula, it really doesn't show it. It's just too small. With the Unistellar, you can see the central star. The solar filter is included free. It suffers from lack of connections from public outreach, but is highly recommended for grab and go. So that's kind of like my conclusions. The Unistellar has some positives. The Seestar has some positives, but if you're just kind of getting into this and you are on a tight budget, if you buy a Seestar, you can't go wrong. So that's it. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, questions? Go ahead.
Just a comment, there's a fella in England, I forget his name, that makes accessories for the Seestar. He makes a bat-mouth mask, a lens cover, and a filter holder for 2-inch filters. And if you just Google Seestar accessories, they'll come up.
Yeah, he's on eBay. I think he sells the whole kit for like $21 or something like that.
He prints them on a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And they fit just fine.
And they have a leveling thing like a surveyor's tripod with the 3 screws so you can make it,
Well, you can
level.
get that on Amazon or
Yeah.
B&H or
Any other questions?
any place.
Yeah, I have one, Tony.
Hey, Greg.
How you doing? To the Seestar's credit, the tripod is small, but it's high quality. It's carbon fiber. It's not cheap aluminum. It's a carbon fiber tripod. So that's to its credit.
Yeah, but it's kind of small. Did you had to buy the leveling feet, right?
Yeah.
Leveling thing.
Yeah, you see about
But
that.
You can actually, in the software, if you hit calibrate the level, it'll do it automatically, and it's pretty accurate. I'll show you during the next.
So that's something new? That's
Yeah. I'll show it to you in the next time we meet on Thursdays.
All right. Very
So
good.
yeah, so it's but you're absolutely right. The Seestar, you can't go wrong for $500. And the new version coming out is like the Dwarf 3. They're going down to 30mm lens with a wide angle, so it's going to be equivalent to the Dwarf 3.
Very good. That's Greg. You were a member of this club, weren't you, at one time?
I still am. I joined. I rejoined. Yep.
Oh, good. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tony.